Genesis chapter 22. And today I'm going to talk about the test of love. The test of love. And in talking about the test of love, I'm going to talk about 12 different views and points in this passage. And interestingly, the 12th point after the test of love is that the blessing of the Lord, the provision of the Lord is on the mountain. The blessing and the provision is always on the mountain. And let's read what it says. Genesis chapter 22 is reading from verses 1. It says, sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. The first thing that I want to speak this morning is when God calls you, first of all, have the decency to say, yes, here I am. You know, when you're in school, when the teacher takes attendance, Prabhakar, yes sir. Sasikala, yes sir. You know, we've been taught to say yes ma'am, or yes sir, or yes teacher, right? When the attendance is called, you don't say, you'll get thrown out of class. Right? Yes sir. You're acknowledging someone calling you. When God called Abraham, he said, Abraham, God said, yes, he replied, here am I. Do you know what that means? That's the first sign of your love to God. When an elder calls you, you say, yes, here am I. That's the first blessing that you can get. Acknowledge, say, yes, God. Don't ask him, what? Tell me. No. Don't go there. He doesn't want to know what, tell me. First of all, he wants to know whether you heard him. Because sometimes when God calls, we are so dumb, we are so deaf, and we are so ignorant that we think that our father or uncle called from the next room. Remember the story in the Old Testament, what was that small boy's name? Samuel. Little guy. How old do you think Samuel was, Billa? 12 years, yeah, just beginning his teens. Little guy. And you know, he was like, there's a voice, and he goes and talks to his grandfather, right? Was that his?
Eli was the priest.
His priest, right. And Eli immediately says, hey, the next time you hear it, just say, here am I. You know that here am I is such a spiritual statement. Here am I. And so, he says, Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. And the second verse says, take your son, your only son. Yes, Isaac, whom you love so much. Look at God. God's having a fun time here. Already he knows Abraham has only one, right? And the one came after many years. And the one came during his old age. He's like, you know, putting salt on the wound. Abraham, take your son. As if God doesn't know that's his only son. Your only son. And he's making it even worse. The one that you love so much. And go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the one mountain which I will show you. Isn't this like sounding like a very cruel God? But look at Abraham. First of all, he says, yes, here am I. The second test of love from Abraham comes when verse 3 says, the next morning Abraham got up early. He never even wasted a day. You see, your blessing lies when God says something to you. Don't think you have all the time in the world. You might have all the time in the world. But look at Abraham. God says, Abraham, says, yes, here am I. Got the instruction, no wasting of time. And what was the deal there? He already knew what God told him to do. It was not a surprise. God said, your only son, the one whom you love, take him and go and sacrifice. God's basically telling him, go kill the guy. If I was Abraham, or if you were Abraham, you know what we would have done? Guess what you would have done? What you would have done? Forget the next day going and doing it. I think that same hour, we would have probably gone and met all our relatives. Hey, this is what God has asked me to do. You think it's God or you think it's the devil? And you'll get all this professional advice from everybody. Hey, God is never asking you to kill people, man. That's the devil. Don't do it. You'll be going and taking like comments from 10 people, and by the time the next day comes, you got your answer. You'll tell God, take a walk. But it was not you. You know what Abraham did? He never spoke to anybody. Be careful. When God speaks to you, don't go and speak to people. You'll be hearing the devil more than you'll be hearing God. He says the next day, he never wasted time. The next day, and that early in the morning, he got up. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire, for a burnt offering, and set out for the place God had told him about. So after, the second point is he never wasted time. When he heard God, the second point of the test of love, you don't waste time with God. Consider God as a very busy person. You don't waste his time. The third point, he set out for the place. He set out to the place. He never wondered which direction. He just set out. He said, this is me. I'm coming. Let's go. Let's do this. He set out for the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He saw the place in the distance. The fourth point that I want to mention this morning is when he saw the place in the distance, he looked up and saw the place in the distance, stay here with the donkey, Abraham told his servants. Immediately when Abraham saw the place there, Abraham knew, okay, that's my location. Nobody else is allowed there except me and the boy. Look at the respect for God. Told his servants, okay, stay here. He instructed his servants what to do. Said, stay here with the donkeys. Next morning, he had servants with him along with his son. Then he chopped wood. He says, Abraham looked up, stay here with the donkey, he said. Abraham told the servants, the boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. The fifth point. Abraham never took negativity as negativity. What did he tell his servants? Me and the boy, we will go. He never said, I will come back. He says, we will come back. Assuming his son is going to come back with him alive. First of all, please understand, his God told him, not his pastor. His God told him, go kill the boy. Right? What father's heart, mind, soul would be at peace when someone speaks this? What father's or mother's heart, mind, and soul would be at peace when someone speaks this? But despite of the words that God told him about sacrifice, Abraham is still keeping hope alive. The fifth aspect of our lives is, do not look at your negativity and lose hope. There is always a light of positivity in that negativity. And Abraham looked at the servants and said, hey, we're going to go and we're going to come. Now, I'm not even trying to understand what Abraham meant by we're going to come back. Here's my perspective of what Abraham thought of we're going to come back. He's probably already decided, yes, I'm going to kill my son. Yes, I'm going to kill my son. But because God promised me that my generations are going to come out of this boy, he's probably going to raise my son again, and I will bring back this boy. That's his hope. He says, we'll come back. Stay positive in your negativity. He says, we'll come right back. 6th verse says, so Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulder. The 6th view this morning is, don't worry about your sacrifice going or coming or being there or not. Stay with your sacrifice. Stay with God's command. It doesn't matter how you think about it. It doesn't matter what it's all about. Stay with it. Stick with it. Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulder, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. I want us to try to visualize this. The man knows he's supposed to kill his son. Actually, the right word is murder. You can call it sacrifice, but it's actually murder in contemporary language, right? He's already freaking out, right? He keeps the wood on this boy, takes the knife and the fire. So Abraham placed the wood while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them walked on together, Isaac turned to Abraham and said, "Father." "Yes, my son." Abraham replied, "We have the fire and the wood." The boy said, "But where is the sheep for the burnt offering?" I was trying, many years back, I was trying to understand what age Isaac would have, and they said, the Bible scholars said that Isaac would have been 15, 16. Is that right, Bella? Isaac would have been?
Somewhere about 12.
Yeah, the teenage. He's probably his early teenage, maybe 13, 14. Some said maybe up to 16. Anyways, so the boy is not a kid, he's a teenager. And I'm assuming he's quite a strong teenager. He's not a puny little, kid. He's quite a strong guy. He's asking his dad. And by the way, let me tell you why I thought he was a strong guy. All the wood is on him. Where did Abraham put the wood? There was no donkey or there was no caravan there. There was no car there. Where was the wood? On Isaac. You think Isaac is a weak kid to carry wood? This is not 1 or 2 pieces of wood. This is wood to burn the kid. This is wood to burn the kid. That's a lot of wood. If Isaac is having all that wood, he's a strong guy. Right? He says, "Where is the sheep?" "We have the fire." Boy said, "Where's the sheep?" Verse 8. "God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son," Abraham answered. Does Abraham know who's the sheep? Does Abraham know who's the sheep? Yes, he knows. At this point of time, he knows who's the sheep. That's his son. His son is the sheep. But look at Abraham's wisdom. He's still staying positive in the negativity. He could have told Isaac, "Isaac, I'm sorry, my son, let me give you one final hug. You're actually the sheep." He would have probably done a little bit of crying there. But Abraham is still thinking, hey, he's still my son. And I'm still going to wait for the sheep. Even though I know that he is the sheep for now, I'm still considering him my son. Look at Abraham. What a man of character. What a man of God's principles. He says, God will provide the sheep, the burnt offering. And they both walked on together. When they arrived at the place, verse 9, when they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. I'm trying to understand this. He prepares the altar, right? Isaac is a strong kid, not a weak, puny kid. I'm wondering whatever happened between the father and son when he's trying to tie him. Isaac has gotten to understand that he's going to die. Which teenager will want to die that kind of a death? Please understand, that guy's not a very spiritual guy. He's just a kid. He's just an ordinary kid. I kept asking myself many times, many years ago, would Isaac have resisted his father's binding? Would he ask the question, Dad, what are you doing? What the heck? Dad, are you killing me now? What kind of a conversation would have happened between father and son because of what God said to do? I don't think it would have been an easy task. I personally, the Bible doesn't explain anything about it. I personally don't believe that Isaac would have said, okay, Daddy, which side to lie down, this side or that side? Note the words. It says, when they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied his son. He tied his son. Do you think his son would have said, okay, Dad, whatever you want? You think that would have happened, or there would have been a kind of a struggle, an argument, or maybe a resistance, maybe a fight? It probably would have been a kind of a wrestling mania there. Isaac would have, Dad, I don't want to die. What's with this? And Abraham would have struggled, caught him, bound him, tied him. Look at the agony of a father. It's not a joke, my friends, but look at the character of Abraham. Look at the love, the test of love for his one and only son after so many years. Look at the love that he had towards his God. He must have been crying in his heart, God, are you sure you want me to do this? This is the only guy that I have here. The son must have been shouting, Dad, what are you doing? Don't do this. It says he tied him. He tied his son Isaac, laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham, so the eighth, the seventh week, the point is, God will provide in your inadequacy. The eighth point is Abraham's love and determination as he bound Isaac. That's the eighth point. Despite his feelings about his son, he still obeyed with his love and dedication. The ninth point I want to share. In verse 10 it says, and Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. Absolutely godly, spiritual obedience. He bound the guy, kept the guy there. Listen, if it was you and me and a normal human being, after doing that, we would probably look to heaven and said, God, are you really sure you want me to kill this fellow? We would have probably waited another 2 hours to hear God before we ever did it. Abraham never waited any longer. He took the knife. He says, God you gave, God you take. Bound, no wasting time. Took the knife, about to kill. His uttermost spiritual obedience towards God. Verse 11 says, at that moment the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Yes, Abraham replied. Here am I. Again. Yes, here am I. The 10th point, Abraham's tuning into God is very, very, very sharp. Abraham's not tuning into his voice. He's not tuning into his thoughts. He's not tuning into his imaginations. He's not tuning into anything external human. He's tuned to God. As soon as he heard, again he says, yes, Abraham said, yes, here I am. Verse 12, don't lay a hand on the boy, the angel said. Do not hurt him in any way, for now I know that you truly fear me. You know what is the love of God? The love of God is the fear of God. The love of God is nothing lesser than the fear of God. In Proverbs it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge. If we say we love God, it has to reflect and translate into fear. The angel said, don't lay that hand, hand on that boy. Do not hurt him in any way. For now I know that you truly fear God. What a certificate to get from God. What a certificate. It's a lifetime achievement certificate. The 11th point. Your love has to translate as the fear of God. It cannot be anything lesser than that. When you fear God, it determines and it detects automatically that you love God. The angel continues to say, you have not withheld from me even your son, your only son. Today we withhold the things that we love very much from God. First of all, we forget God. We withhold the things that we love from our own relatives. We are scared sometimes the relatives come to our house and say, can I have this? Can I have this? Give me that, give me this. We are scared to even give things to our own relatives and family. I know some people who hide things in their house because if somebody comes and sees, they say, I like this, give this to me. They hide things in their house because they're scared somebody will come and ask for it. Abraham never withheld anything, and the angel goes on to say, you have not withheld from me even your son, your only son. You see what you know what God's looking at? He's trying to see whether you're trying to withhold anything from him. You know what's interesting? You know what's very interesting? God will only take what you love most. So be careful. God will take what you love the most. Be very careful with what you love. Not because he's evil, but he just wants to show how evil you and me are. It's not because God is evil. He wants to show how evil we are, to love that than love him more. You know why God asks for things that you love more? Because your love for him has reduced. You know why God asked for Isaac? God knew Abraham loved the fellow head over heels. He's so fond of this fellow. And God said, let me find out where my love stands towards Isaac. You know, in my family, my wife and my kids keep asking me one question. Who you love? Who you love? Who you love? So the last many months right now, my love has changed to one person in the house. I say, I love Hunter. My wife gets angry with me. How dare you love? The fellow came just 8 months back. How dare you say you love Hunter? And Kim comes, Dad, you love me? I said, no, I love Hunter. I don't love anybody. I love Hunter. And they're like, why do you like Hunter? He's my youngest son. He's the youngest in the family. I love him a lot. Now when I'm reading the story, I'm getting scared. God will take a lot of things that you love. You see that? It's very simple, friends. He just wants to make sure that whatever you think you want to love and you love is not more than the love that you have for him. He is your love. There cannot be any other love. It says, then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught with its horns in the thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. I'm wondering what the fellow's doing, Isaac, watching all this drama happen. His hands are bound. Father's taking the knife to kill him. Suddenly he's hearing a voice. Isaac probably never heard the voice. Probably only Abraham heard. And he must be like, what's wrong with my old man here? Suddenly he's saying, here am I. Yes, what? Who's he talking to? Isaac, just imagine a teenager about to die watching this dramatic old man of his. You know what the teenager would have learned there? The teenager who got to know God instantly. Isaac would have gotten to know his Creator like that. It says, Abraham named the place Yahweh Yireh, which means the Lord will provide. It says, to this day, people still use that name as a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. That's the 12th point that I want to finish off this morning. You see, anytime God wants to bless you, most of the times that God wants to bless you, He will cause you to have this mountaintop feeling and experience. He takes you from your deepest problem, your valley. He will take you step by step to the mountaintop. You have to endure till you reach the mountaintop, and on the mountaintop, it will be provided. Sometimes we don't want to go with God to the mountain. We are still stuck in the valley. We're still stuck where we are. We are still stubborn where we say, God, you bring the blessing here. God's saying, no, walk with me. I'm taking you to the mountain. I'm taking you through a phase of life. I want to show you these steps of life. And I want to reward you on that mountain. On the mountain is the blessing. That's the 12th point. Your provision is on the mountain. If you're still stuck in the valley, do not experience and expect that blessing. And most of the time, if I want to say, we've lost our blessing because we failed to make it to the mountain. You see, if we fail to make it to the mountain, it's not God's problem. It's our problem. So don't waste time praying. Sometimes we're wasting our time. We're fasting, we're praying, we're working hard, we're trying to be spiritual, but it's all in the valley. Your blessing is not in the valley, it's on the mountain. So you're doing the right thing, but you're doing the right thing in the wrong place. That's the point. The point is, you're probably doing the right thing, it's just in the wrong place. You need to do the right thing in the right place. The blessing of completion is doing the right thing in the right place, not doing the right thing in the wrong place. Abraham did the right things in the right places. And that's why it was provided for him. Ask yourself, am I doing the right thing in the right place, or am I doing the right thing in the wrong place? Sometimes we do the wrong thing in the right place. We'll be doing exactly the wrong thing. The place will be right, but it's all the wrong things. And sometimes we're doing everything right, but it's the wrong place. You need to do the right thing in the right place. That's the system of God. That's the way that's the way the Lord functions. And if you want to see your completeness of provision and blessing, you need to be able to take time and walk up the mountain to experience God. We have all the excuses in the world why we don't want to go up the mountain. Oh God, I'm old, I can't walk. Oh God, I'm not used to trekking. Oh God, there's a little less oxygen. My friend, my classmate, he's right now in Leh, Ladakh. He's experiencing Leh and Ladakh and all that thing. And he was messaging on Facebook. He's saying, this place is not for the weak and feeble and old people. You need to be strong, mentally, emotionally fit, because the oxygen level is very less here. You need to be able to manage your breathing. You see, when God takes you to the mountain, there's going to be a lot of issues. There's going to be less oxygen, there's going to be steep slopes, and there's going to be all these things. You figure that out. That's not God's problem. God gave you energy, He gave you health, He gave you everything to figure it out. Figure out your difficulties. You want the blessing, figure out the difficulties. You see, you know what we do? We want God to figure out our difficulties. We want God to show us how to do it. We want God to help somebody else to do it. And we also want the blessing when somebody else is doing it. If God sends somebody else to do it for you, when you get to the mountain, you don't need to get the blessing. Those people need to get the blessing. Why should you get it? You didn't do anything. Everybody helped you to get to the mountain. They should be rewarded, not you. Why would God give it to you? You see, there has to be pain, difficulty, sacrifice in a mountain climb. Don't be praying and asking God, take away this also, God, make a nice road for me, God. That's not going to happen. Why does God want us to go up the mountain? Because He wants us to have an experience of what it is to go up the mountain. If God didn't want us to have that mountain experience, He could have met us on the main highway and said, come do it here. Why would God ask Abraham to come up to the mountain to do the sacrifice, like as if He wouldn't have asked Abraham to go to some lonely field and do it? Why should it go up the mountain? Sometimes God wants to see our capacity, our attitude, our sacrifice, our willingness, our humility, our obedience, our love. All of this is involved in that mountain climb. I don't know how many of you have gone trekking. But if you have not, I'm willing to take you. How many of you have never gone up a mountain walking, trekking? I'm not talking about a hill. I'm talking about a mountain. Trekking up a mountain like for 4 hours. How many of you have gone? Not gone. Raise your hand if you're not gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow. Interesting. So let's organize a trekking trip. You know, sometimes when we do some physical exercises, you'll understand spiritual things. I'm not joking. I'm seriously saying, let's do a trek trip. I will organize it. I want you to understand the pain of walking up a mountain, to understand the benefit of a blessing. Sometimes we have to transfer physical things to understand spiritual things. We want to stay comfortable in our house and expect God's blessing to come 24/7. Church, that's not going to happen. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. God's not going to do that. Definitely not going to do that. God wants to show us and teach us things before He does anything to us. And that's what He was doing to Abraham. He was testing Abraham's love, testing Abraham's character, testing Abraham's vision, determination, and his integrity, his inside nature, Abraham was put to the test A to Z. And guess what? He passed everything with flying colors. never failed even one. That's what we need to be experiencing in life. It's okay to get low marks and to fail in college and school. You can still write a supplementary exam and pass. But please don't fail with God. Please don't fail with God. Do all you can to pass with God. It's okay if you fail in academics, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But it's not okay to fail with God. If at all there's one person you want to pass with and do all that you can, that's God. And if you say you love God, then you have to go through the test of love. And when you go through the test of love, you will experience the provision and the blessing on the mountain. Let's all stand up.